Hello, my dear friends. A new day has begun, and we are here, together, to lift up our hearts in prayer to the Lord. We come to ask for peace, to ask for strength, and most of all, to ask that He stays with us every step of the way. No matter what this day may hold, we begin it by placing it gently in His hands. Let us pray. Lord, before I move, before I speak, before I open my eyes wide to the tasks that await me, to the decisions I must make, to the people I must meet or confront or love, before I let my thoughts wander into fears of tomorrow or regrets of yesterday, before the weight of expectation presses against my chest or the rush of responsibility floods my fragile sense of peace, I come to you, quietly, in stillness, in the soft breath of morning light, when all is not yet loud, and I offer you this moment, not because I have earned it or deserve anything in return, but because I know that without you I am directionless. No matter how much I plan, I am rootless, no matter how strong I pretend to be, and I am restless, no matter how much the world applauds my achievements. And so I return, again, to the gentle certainty of your presence, the safety of surrender, the peace that does not come from knowing all the answers but from knowing that you are the one who holds the questions and the journey and the destination in the same holy hand. I do not want to begin this day standing on the shaky ground of my own logic, for I know how easily my mind deceives me, how quickly I lean on my own understanding when it is so small, so limited, so colored by fear and pride and wounded memory. So instead, I ask you to be my understanding, my compass, my reason and rhythm and root. I ask you to hold me upright not by the clarity of my plans but by the constancy of your mercy. And even if I do not know what this day will bring, and even if the path looks ordinary or unfamiliar or frightening, and even if nothing goes the way I thought it would, still I choose, in this early silence, to trust you with my whole heart, not just the pieces that feel strong, but the broken parts too. The hesitant corners, the trembling hopes, the exhausted faith I barely have the strength to lift up. I bring all of it, raw and unfinished, because I believe you receive it not with judgment but with love, not with demands but with gentleness, not with disappointment but with the joy of a father who is simply glad that his child came home. Let this not be a day driven by my agenda but by your will, not ruled by pressure but shaped by grace, not controlled by fear of failure but lived in the freedom of your faithfulness. For even if I stumble, and I will, and even if I forget, and I might, and even if I fall short again and again, still I believe that you remain, patient and present and powerful, waiting not at the end of the day to tally up my success but walking with me in each moment, in each breath, whispering truth into the noise, calling me back when I wander, lifting me when I hesitate, steadying my hand when it shakes, and showing me, over and over again, that trust is not something I need to manufacture or master, but something I grow into, slowly, steadily, through daily surrender, through remembering your promises, through choosing to place my heart in your hands even when I do not see where you are leading. And so, before I begin, I kneel, not always with my body but with my heart, and I whisper, sometimes with words and sometimes only with longing, this simple but costly prayer: Lord, I trust you, not with the part of me that already understands, but with the part that doesn't, not only with the things I can handle, but especially with those I cannot, not because I have figured it all out, but because I believe you already have, and you are good, and you are here, And you are not asking me to solve the day but to walk it with you. Hand in hand, step by step, heart in heart, until the evening comes and I can rest in the peace of having lived this day not by my strength, not by my clarity, not by my will, but by grace, by trust, by the holy mystery of walking with the God who knows me and loves me still. And as the first rays of light stretch gently across the walls of my room, brushing against the quiet corners with a promise of warmth and awakening, I feel within me a soft trembling, not of fear, but of reverence, of the quiet awe that comes from knowing that this day, though it may seem ordinary in the eyes of the world, is entirely new in the eyes of heaven, that this very breath I take now is a gift I did not earn, that this rising sun is not owed to me, but freely given, like so many of your mercies which I have carelessly taken for granted. And so I pause, still before you, and I ask that you give me the grace to live today not as one rushing to achieve but as one learning to receive, to notice, to embrace the holy hidden in the familiar, to walk through this day not with clenched fists but with open hands, not with rehearsed answers but with a heart attentive to the quiet promptings of your Spirit. Teach me to begin again, Lord, not just today, but in every moment when I am tempted to react out of habit, to speak without listening, to assume without asking, to plan without praying, to control without consulting you. For the truth is, it is not the great storms that often undo me, but the 1,000 small choices I make without you, the impatience in traffic, the sharp words spoken too quickly, the harsh judgment formed in silence, the rush to do rather than to be. And I know now, more than ever, that holiness is not something waiting at the end of my to-do list, but something born in these little beginnings, in the way I pour my first cup of coffee with gratitude instead of dread, in the way I look at my spouse or child or coworker or neighbor and remember that they, too, are beloved and sacred, in the way I choose to forgive even the smallest offenses before bitterness has a chance to root. And so I ask you, humbly but earnestly, to inhabit these small beginnings with me, to consecrate the ordinary with your extraordinary grace, to fill this day, not with miracles of grandeur, but with the quiet miracle of awareness, of communion, of trust that holds even when I cannot see or feel. I do not want to carry the burden of proving myself today, not in my performance, not in my productivity, not in how well I please others or appear competent or seem put together. For I know, deep in my soul, that you are not watching me with a checklist but with the gaze of a Father who delights not in my outcomes but in my heart's intention to stay near you. And so I let go, little by little, of the urge to compare, to compete, to perfect, to impress, and instead I hold tightly to the quiet truth that my worth is not something I must earn with each sunrise, but something already spoken over me in the stillness of eternity, something sealed by your love and made whole by the cross. And it is in that truth that I choose to begin again, not striving, not fearing, not chasing, but trusting. And as I move toward the day, I do not ask that you make everything easy or clear, for even your Son walked a path of dust and shadow and misunderstanding. But I do ask that you give me the courage to walk where you lead, the humility to admit when I am wrong, the gentleness to respond with kindness even when I am tired, the wisdom to be silent when words are too much, and the grace to begin again, not just in the morning but in every moment that begs for mercy. And may each step I take today, no matter how small or slow or uncertain, be taken with you, for you, through you, and may I never forget, even for a second, that the path of trust is not a detour from real life, it is the very heartbeat of it. So before I begin, Lord, I offer you this rising, this breath, this heart of mine still learning how to believe, and I ask you to draw near, to dwell within me, to walk before me and beside me and behind me, and to remind me again and again that no matter what comes, no matter what fails or succeeds, no matter what hurts or heals, I can choose this one sacred thing, to trust in you with all my heart, and not to lean on my own understanding, for you are enough, and you are near, and in you, even the beginning becomes a holy place. Lord, there are mornings when I rise and already feel the weight in my chest before my feet touch the floor. A quiet but relentless ache that whispers questions I cannot answer. A heaviness that lives behind my thoughts and coils around my spirit. Not loud, but steady, and I know its name. It is worry. It is fear. It is the silent dread of what may come or what may never come. And though I tell myself that today is just another day, my body remembers every disappointment, every uncertainty, every unanswered prayer, and so I come to you, not pretending to be strong or certain or peaceful, but as I am, anxious, weary, unsure, and I offer you not a polished prayer but the raw, trembling confession of a child who needs her father's arms more than she needs explanations or solutions. I worry, Lord, about the things I can name and the things I cannot, about the people I love and the responsibilities I carry, about the mistakes I might make and the things outside my control, about the future that feels too far and the present that feels too much, and I know, in my mind, that I should not, that you are good and sovereign and near, but my heart does not always catch up with what my mind professes. And there are moments when even trust feels like a mountain I do not have the strength to climb. And so instead of hiding this anxiety from you, I place it before you like a fragile bundle of threads I cannot untangle, asking you not to fix it instantly, but to sit with me in it, to hold me while I am still afraid, to speak peace not only to the storm outside, but to the storm within. Teach me again, O Lord, that I do not need to understand everything in order to walk in your light, that I do not need to have control in order to be safe, that I do not need to see the outcome in order to take the next step. For you have not asked me to figure it all out but to follow, to trust, to rest in the mystery of your providence, to believe that even when my hands are empty, your hands are full, and that even when my thoughts run wild with what ifs and how will I and what if I can't, your voice is still, steady, faithful, calling me back to the truth that I am not alone and never have been. And that anxiety does not disqualify me from your love but draws you nearer in compassion and tenderness. So I ask you, Lord, in this quiet moment, to meet me in my fear, not with scolding or shame, but with the gentle firmness of a shepherd who knows every winding path and every shadowed valley, who does not rush me but walks beside me, who speaks my name with affection even when I can barely speak it myself, who reminds me that peace is not the absence of problems but the presence of your Spirit within me, steady and unshaken, even as the world moves and shifts and trembles around me. Let me not lean on my own understanding, especially when that understanding is clouded by fear, by imagination twisted by worry, by worst-case scenarios that grow larger in the silence. But let me lean instead on the everlasting arms that never grow weary, on the promises you have spoken over me since before I was formed, on the hope that is not rooted in circumstances but in the unchanging character of the one who calls me beloved, And let my anxious thoughts become offerings rather than obstacles, places of prayer rather than prisons, bridges rather than barriers, as I slowly, intentionally surrender them, one by one, hour by hour, to the only one strong enough to hold them all. And if I cannot silence the noise within me, then help me to listen for your voice in the midst of it, to find you not only in the stillness but in the chaos, not only in answers but in presence, not only in healing but in the holy endurance of waiting and hoping in returning, again and again, to the same sacred truth, that I am yours, I am seen, I am carried, and I am never beyond the reach of your peace, even when peace feels far away. And if today I find myself walking through moments that stir my fear again, if a message arrives that unsettles me, if a conversation leaves me doubting, if silence stretches too long and questions remain unanswered, then help me not to spiral inward, not to reach again for the illusion of control, not to rely on rehearsed defenses or human reasoning, but to return, even if it takes me 100 small returns in a single hour, to this hidden place where trust is born not from certainty but from communion, where faith does not erase fear but holds its hand and walks forward anyway, where I remember that my heart was never meant to carry everything alone, and that the weight I feel is not a sign of failure but a gentle invitation to lay it down, again, at your feet, because, Lord, you are not impatient with my weakness. You do not grow weary of my questions. You do not measure my worth by the steadiness of my emotions or the strength of my plans. But you receive me, even trembling, even doubting, even tired of trying, and you whisper with the voice that calms the sea and wakes the dead, "Do not be afraid. I am with you," and that alone is enough to keep me breathing, to keep me hoping, to keep me grounded not in a world I can predict but in a God who cannot fail. And even if the anxious thoughts return tomorrow or next week or years from now, I will not see them as proof that I lack faith, but as reminders that I must remain near you, abide in you, rest in you, because my heart was made for dependence, not independence, for trust, not certainty, for communion, not calculation. So in this day that lies ahead, however complex, however unknown, I ask for one grace above all, that when anxiety whispers its familiar lies, I will not give it the final word, but will turn instead to the deeper voice, the truer voice, the voice that spoke light into darkness and still speaks peace into restless hearts. The voice that says, "Trust in me with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding," and when I hear it, may I answer not with fear but with faith, not with resistance but with surrender, not with the illusion of control, but with open hands lifted toward heaven, saying, "Here I am, Lord, anxious but willing, fragile but yours, uncertain but ready to walk one step at a time in the shadow of your mercy, held by grace, lit by hope, guided by the shepherd who knows the way, even when I do not." Lord, there is a quiet holiness in the way you choose to speak through the smallest moments of my day, through things that the world passes by without notice, through the slow steam rising from a morning cup of coffee, through the way sunlight filters softly through the window and rests upon the floor, through the creak of a wooden step, the breath of wind against my skin, the sound of a child laughing, the rustle of leaves when no one is looking, and I know that these are not accidents or mere background to the day's greater tasks, but invitations, gentle and persistent, for my heart to wake up, to notice, to give thanks not for what is impressive or monumental, but for what is quietly faithful, consistently present, beautifully simple. And so I ask you today, Lord, to train my soul to see you where I might not have looked before, to help me understand that your grace is not confined to sacred buildings or high achievements or grand revelations, but poured into every nook and corner of the ordinary, saturating even the most mundane moments with the mystery of divine presence. I know that I am often tempted to seek you only in the extraordinary, to wait for the miracle or the breakthrough or the sign that shakes the earth. But today I want to seek you in what is small, in the dishes washed with love, in the words spoken with patience, in the task repeated without applause, in the moments of silence that feel too empty to matter but are in fact filled with you. And I want to believe, not just with my mind but with the full weight of my heart, that what I do in secret, when no one is watching, when no one praises or thanks or notices, is not wasted, not overlooked, not less valuable in your eyes, because you, Lord, who see in secret, reward not with trophies but with the steady joy of communion, the deep peace that blooms when a soul learns to live not for the eyes of others but for the love of the Father who delights in the quiet offering of a heart surrendered in the smallest of things. Let me not despise the rhythm of my daily duties, nor rush through them in search of something more spiritual or more exciting. But let me discover the sanctity of rhythm, the liturgy of routine, the sacrament of presence. And if I am folding laundry or preparing meals or responding to emails or holding a hand or offering a listening ear or returning again to the same work that feels invisible and endless, remind me that each act, when offered with love, becomes an altar. Each task, when done in trust, becomes a prayer. Each word, when spoken with kindness, becomes a part of your redeeming work in the world. And so I need not wait for a different calling or a more dramatic moment to live in holiness. For you are already here, in this hour, in this space, in this breath, inviting me not to understand everything, not to control everything, but to trust you in everything, especially in the places that feel too small to matter. And if I grow weary of repetition, if the days begin to blur and the ordinary becomes heavy, if I start to wonder whether anything I do makes a difference, let me remember you, Jesus, who spent 30 hidden years in a carpenter's shop, who washed feet, who touched the sick, who blessed children, who broke bread, who gave dignity to the unnoticed and beauty to the broken, who transformed the simple into the sacred. And help me believe that if you, the Son of God, chose to reveal glory in smallness, then I too can find purpose not in doing more, but in being fully present to what is already in my hands, living each moment as a vessel for grace, loving each neighbor as an image of you, and offering each breath as a quiet but complete yes to the God who is near. And so, Lord, if today I find myself in places that seem too quiet to be meaningful, or in conversations that seem too short to be remembered, or in tasks that seem too small to be valuable, give me eyes to see as you see, not with the impatient gaze of the world that weighs worth by results and attention and recognition, but with the eyes of love that see potential in every humble offering, that delight in the hidden work of the heart, that celebrate the unseen ways in which faithfulness is forged not through sudden leaps but through the slow, deliberate choice to keep showing up, to keep giving, to keep trusting, even when nothing seems to change, even when no one seems to notice, even when I myself question whether I am growing at all, and remind me, with the gentleness of a father and the clarity of truth, that you are not in a hurry with me, that you are not asking for spectacular performance but for surrendered presence, and that in your kingdom, It is the small seed that holds the mystery of the tree. The little coin that reveals the treasure. The whispered prayer that moves mountains. The cup of water offered in your name that echoes into eternity. Let me walk through this day with sacred attention, not lost in what I wish I could do or what I fear I cannot do, but rooted deeply in what is before me, in the person in front of me, in the word I can speak, in the breath I can take, in the moment I can choose to say thank you even when I feel like complaining, to forgive even when I feel justified in holding back, to smile even when I feel unseen, because I know now, more than ever, that each small choice made in love is a doorway to you. That each unnoticed moment offered with humility becomes holy in your hands. That each little act of patience, courage, kindness, or silence weaves itself into the story you are writing in me, quietly, slowly, eternally. So I will not wait for the grand occasion to begin trusting you with all my heart. Nor will I wait for understanding to precede obedience, but I will lean into the grace of each present moment, believing that you are already there, waiting to meet me in the ordinary with extraordinary love, shaping my soul not through what dazzles but through what roots me deeper in the steady rhythm of your presence, teaching me to find you not in what is dramatic or loud or urgent, but in the stillness of doing the next right thing, the next gentle thing, the next loving thing, and in that small yes, I begin again. Lord, it is easy to trust when the road is clear and the signs are bright and the answers come quickly. When the pieces fall into place and the plan makes sense and the outcomes align with my prayers. But what about the days when the silence lingers longer than I can bear? When the things I hoped for slip quietly away, when the doors I believed you would open remain firmly shut, and the ones I never wanted to walk through swing wide without explanation? What about the hours when the questions weigh more than the promises? When the night stretches without stars? When I do everything I know to do and still the fog does not lift? The pain does not ease. The meaning does not come. What then? Lord, when nothing makes sense and yet I must still wake, still move, still breathe, because I have been there, Lord, and sometimes still find myself there, on the edge of what I know and the mystery of what I do not. In the aching space between what I longed for and what you allowed. In the tension between trust and confusion, where my understanding meets its limit and faith is asked to begin. And it is there, not in certainty, but in surrender, that I come to you now, not with answers or insight or confidence in my own reasoning, but with trembling hands and an open heart and a quiet cry that says, Lord, I do not understand, but I am still yours, because I believe that you are not afraid of my questions, that you do not turn away when I wrestle with what I cannot explain, that you do not shame me for the ache of not knowing, but instead you meet me in that ache. You sit beside me in the unknowing. You stay even when I can't see. You hold even when I do not feel held. You remain even when my understanding falls apart. Teach me, Lord, not to measure the nearness of your love by how well things go or how clear things seem. Not to assume that silence means absence or that mystery means abandonment. Not to confuse confusion with punishment or delay with denial, but to believe with a deeper kind of faith, the kind that chooses to trust not because it sees but because it knows you. Not because the story makes sense but because the author is good. Not because the pain is easy but because you are present in it, forming something eternal within me even when everything on the outside feels unstable or uncertain or unseen. Remind me again, Lord, of the saints and the sorrowful, of those who followed you in darkness and did not yet receive what they hoped for, of Abraham stepping into the unknown, of Mary saying yes before she understood what it would cost, of Joseph trusting dreams instead of explanations, of Job choosing to bless your name even as everything he loved was taken, of Jesus in the garden sweating blood and still whispering, "Not my will, but yours." Remind me that the path of trust has never required full understanding. Only a heart willing to believe that love still leads even through the valley of shadows. That goodness still holds even when the light disappears. That faith is not the absence of doubt, but the choice to place doubt in your hands. Again and again, until trust grows stronger in the soil of surrender. So I offer you now, Lord, not my knowledge but my not knowing, not my grasp but my letting go, not my demand for clarity but my willingness to walk blind if it means walking beside you, and if you ask me to wait, may I do so not with clenched fists but with open palms, not with bitterness but with hope, not with impatience but with the quiet courage of one who knows that timing is not mine to control, that outcomes are not mine to orchestrate, that the story unfolding is yours and not mine, and that even when the next step is hidden, the shepherd is not, even when the plan is unclear, the presence is certain, and even when I understand nothing, I can still say, I trust you, Lord, with all my heart. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. And so, Lord, having given you my morning breath and my anxious thoughts and my smallest offerings and even my unknowing, I now gather everything into my arms, not as burdens, but as gifts entrusted to me for the hours ahead, and I take one step, not because I have figured everything out or because I am suddenly brave, but because I have decided, in the stillness of my heart, that it is better to walk with you in mystery than to stand still in fear without you. And I know the road may wind and I may grow weary, and some prayers may go seemingly unanswered, and some desires may need to die before they rise again. But I also know that you, my faithful God, have never once asked me to walk alone, and that is all I need to keep going, because I believe that you are already in the places I will go today, already in the meetings and the phone calls and the quiet moments of solitude, already in the conversations that feel too brief to matter and the decisions that feel too heavy to carry, already in the interruptions and the blessings and the things I would not have chosen for myself. And though I do not know what will come, I know who comes with me, and that is why I walk, not with certainty, but with surrender, not with fear, but with faith, not because the path is smooth, but because the shepherd is good, and his rod and staff will comfort me even when the valley is long. I choose today to trust not in my ability to manage everything or predict outcomes or win approval or meet every expectation, but to trust in you, who never leaves, who never changes, who never grows tired of reminding me that I am held even when I stumble, that I am chosen even when I feel invisible, that I am loved even when I am not at my best. And so I lift my eyes not to my own strength but to the hills where my help comes from. And I remember that you are the God who goes before me, who walks beside me, who guards me from behind, and who waits for me at every turn with open arms and eyes full of mercy. And as I walk into the rest of this day, with whatever it may hold, I will carry with me this prayer in my bones and in my breath, that I may respond with grace instead of anger, with peace instead of panic, with presence instead of rushing, and that in the ordinary and the unexpected alike, I may recognize you, disguised in the faces I meet, hidden in the quiet moments I almost overlook, wrapped within the very breath that keeps me going, and I pray that each step may echo with trust. And each pause may become a sanctuary, and each choice may be made not from fear of what could go wrong but from hope in what you are already making right. And if by nightfall I find myself weary again, let it not be because I carried the day alone, but because I poured it out with love, walked it with trust, and placed it in your hands over and over, like a child who knows that even imperfect footsteps are precious to the Father who watches with joy not for perfection but for closeness. And even if I falter, may I fall forward into your grace and rise again, each day, with the same prayer whispered through tired lips and persistent hope, Jesus. I trust in you, so now I rise, Lord, not in my own power, but in yours, and I walk, not because I see everything clearly, but because I believe you are near, and that is enough, and with all my heart, I trust you. Lord Jesus, as I finish this prayer and step into the life you've given me today, I surrender all that I am and all that I will do into your hands. Bless my coming and my going. Sanctify my thoughts and my words. Protect my peace and purify my heart, that in all things I may reflect your presence, your gentleness, and your trustworthiness. May your Spirit dwell richly within me and guide me every step of the way. I pray not to be successful in the eyes of the world, but to be faithful in the quiet places, to be loving where it costs something, and to be trusting where it makes no sense. And if ever I forget this moment of stillness, bring me back to it gently. Remind me again that I was never meant to understand everything, but I was always meant to trust you with everything. Amen. If this prayer has brought you peace today, I invite you to subscribe to this channel so we can keep walking together in faith, one prayer at a time. Let's begin each day with trust, with grace, and with God always at the center. You are never alone.